The medical deck of the starship Valeris Prime was never quiet, but this time the air felt heavy with panic. Blue warning lights blinked across the ceiling as alarms echoed through the hallways. Every medic on duty rushed toward the central bay, their hands shaking while they prepared emergency gear. The incoming distress shuttle had sent a short message only minutes ago. It carried a human soldier, alive but in critical condition. The message also said something that made the alien doctor's blood run cold. 17 broken bones. Dr. Turla, chief physician of the Tharn Medical Division, stood at the main console. Her green skin glowed faintly under the surgical lights as she read the human's life signs flickering across the screen. The readings made no sense to her. His pulse was unstable, yet strong. His oxygen levels were far below safe range for any species she knew, yet the heart refused to stop. Every number looked wrong, but the monitor confirmed one fact. He was still alive. Behind her, the rest of the team moved quickly. Medical drones hovered around the room, adjusting tables, cleaning tools, and preparing regenerative pods. The Tharn medics whispered among themselves, their voices tight with fear. To them, a body with even 2 broken bones meant a slow recovery and heavy pain. 17 fractures meant certain death. Turla turned as the doors opened with a hiss. The rescue crew rolled in a stretcher carrying a tall human wrapped in a damaged pressure suit. The armor was blackened with scorch marks and streaks of dried blood. His helmet visor was cracked, and his breathing was rough, but his eyes were open. The human looked around the room as if trying to judge where he was. "Put him on table 3, Turla ordered. Her voice was calm, but her tail twitched with nervous energy. "Activate the scanner." 2 medics lifted the stretcher onto the glowing platform. The moment the human touched the table, the scanner projected a transparent image of his body above him. Bones appeared as bright lines of light, and everyone in the room gasped. The skeleton looked shattered. Fractures ran through both legs, several ribs were crushed, and one arm was bent at an unnatural angle. The skull showed 2 cracks, and the spine displayed signs of pressure trauma. Turla stared at the image in disbelief. "How is he still breathing?" she whispered. The human heard her voice and turned his head slightly. Despite the pain, he smiled weakly. "It hurts," he said, "but I've had worse." The medics froze. They understood the human language through the ship's translator, but they could not understand the meaning of his calm tone. Turla leaned closer, trying to keep him awake. "You must not speak. You need to save your strength." He shook his head slowly. "You'll need me conscious," he said. "Tell me, did the ship make it?" "Which ship?" Turla asked. "The colony transport," he said. "We held the line for them. They got away, right?" Turla blinked in confusion. "The message said your unit defended the evacuation. The transport reached warp zone safely. You did it." The human's eyes softened. He gave a tired laugh, then closed his eyes as if satisfied. "Good," he murmured. Turla turned to her team. "Prepare for full-body stabilization. We will need regenerative gel, neural clamps, and bone seals. Start with the spine." "Yes, doctor," one medic replied. They began working quickly, cutting away the damaged armor and attaching support units around his limbs. The smell of metal and antiseptic filled the air. The medical drones extended arms that sprayed fine streams of nanogel over the wounds. It hissed faintly as it touched the torn skin. Turla's hands moved carefully. She had treated many species across the galaxy, but human anatomy was still new to her. Their biology was a strange balance of strength and fragility. Their muscles were dense, their hearts powerful, but their skeletons were less reinforced compared to most spacefaring species. Yet somehow, this one had survived injuries that should have destroyed him. "His pain levels must be unbearable," said one medic softly. "Should we put him under?" Turla nodded and prepared the sedative. She injected it into his neck. The monitor beeped, showing the dose entering his bloodstream. Everyone waited for his pulse to slow, but nothing happened. The heart kept beating at the same pace. His eyes opened again, and he looked directly at her. "You'll need more than that," he said faintly. Turla's eyes widened. "That was the strongest dose we can safely use, and it's not enough for humans," he said. "Our bodies fight back when we want to stay awake." She had no answer. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had read about human endurance, but seeing it was different. The man's blood pressure should have dropped by now. Instead, his body resisted every attempt to shut down. "Who are you?" Turla asked quietly. "Sergeant Rion," he said. "Earth Defense Corps." Turla nodded. "Sergeant Rion, you are safe now. You are aboard the Valoris Prime. Try not to move." He smiled again. "Noted, Doctor." As they continued treatment, Turla noticed his hands clenching each time they aligned a bone. He made no sound of pain. She studied his face. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but his eyes stayed clear. It was as if his mind refused to accept the weakness of his body. An hour passed. The medical team managed to stabilize most of his fractures. His vitals were still low, but steady. The room felt quiet except for the soft hum of machines. Turla finally allowed herself to breathe. "He should be resting now," she said. "The worst is over." But as she spoke, the monitor spiked again. His pulse jumped higher, muscles tensing. Rion's breathing turned rapid. The doctors hurried back, thinking he was in distress, but his voice came again, strained yet firm. "They're coming," he said. Turla frowned. "Who is coming?" He looked at her, eyes wide but focused. "The drones? They tracked the signal. You need to seal the bay." Before anyone could respond, the ship's alarm blared again. A voice came through the intercom. "Hostile crafts detected on approach vector. Unknown models. Shields raised." Turla felt her stomach twist. The human had been right. His warning came seconds before the threat appeared. "Get him into the regeneration pod," she ordered. Now, the team moved fast, lifting the stretcher and sliding it into a cylindrical chamber filled with healing fluid. The clear liquid began to bubble around him, sealing his wounds and supporting his body weight. Rion's eyes closed again, this time more peacefully. Turla placed a hand on the glass. "Stay alive, Sergeant. You've done enough." The ship shook as enemy fire struck the hull. Lights flickered. The medics grabbed onto tables and rails. Turla steadied herself and looked at the monitors. The human's heart rate was still steady. Somehow, he was sleeping through the chaos. The battle outside raged for several minutes before the noise faded. When the all-clear signal came, the crew relaxed but remained shaken. Tirla turned back to her patient. His body floated inside the chamber, surrounded by streams of light from the repair systems. She studied his face again. Even in rest, his expression carried determination. The other doctors gathered behind her, whispering. "He should not have survived that landing," one said. "No being can live with that many fractures." "Humans are different," Turla replied quietly. "I am beginning to understand why their kind is feared and respected." She reviewed the medical scans again. Each reading confirmed what her eyes saw. The damage was catastrophic, but his life signs refused to fail. It was as if his body had made a promise to stay alive no matter the cost. One medic stepped forward. "Doctor, his brainwave patterns show unusual activity. It looks like he's dreaming." Turla tilted her head. "Dreaming? At this stage of trauma?" "Yes, the neural signals are strong, almost like he's remembering something." The doctor switched the screen to a visualization of his brain activity. It pulsed rhythmically, unlike any pattern they had seen before. Turla wondered what a human could dream about after such pain. Perhaps he was remembering his home world. Perhaps he was seeing the faces of those he saved. She could not know, but the thought filled her with quiet respect. Later, when the ship's commander arrived to check on the patient, Turla reported everything. She explained the injuries, the impossible endurance, and the strange resistance to sedatives. The commander, a tall alien with silver eyes, listened silently. "So this is the human soldier who defended the colony?" He said. "Yes," Turla answered. "He stood against the drones until his body broke apart, yet he still fought. He even warned us of the enemy before we detected them." The commander looked at the chamber. "Unbelievable. I have fought beside many species, but none like them. Their courage is not logical." "Maybe not," Turla said. "But it is real." The commander nodded and left. When the room grew quiet again, Turla sat by the chamber. Her mind replayed every moment since he arrived. The pain he endured, the calm way he spoke, the strange humor he kept even when near death. She had read reports of human stubbornness, but now she understood it differently. It was not carelessness or arrogance, it was willpower. It was the belief that, as long as there was a chance, giving up was not an option. The medics slowly returned to their duties, cleaning tools and resetting equipment. The tension faded, replaced by quiet awe. They had witnessed something that would become legend across the fleet. Rian remained asleep inside the chamber, his body healing, his heartbeat steady. Each pulse echoed through the room like a reminder that the impossible could be done. Turla wrote in her log that night. Her entry was short but honest. Subject: human male. Condition: severe trauma. Outcome: survival. Explanation: unknown. The next rotation cycle on the Volaris Prime began in quiet tension. The hum of the engines filled the halls as the ship drifted through safe space. The battle had ended hours ago, and the crew was finally recovering from the shock. Yet on the medical deck, no one truly relaxed. Inside the glass chamber at the center of the room, the humans still floated in healing fluid, surrounded by beams of soft light. Dr. Turla had not left the bay since the operation. She stood beside the chamber, reviewing the data that continued to flow across her console. The readings were unlike anything she had seen in her career. The human cells repaired themselves faster than expected. His blood chemistry shifted every few hours, adapting to the regenerative gel and resisting infection in ways that defied the medical models of every known species. When the door opened, her assistant, a young medic named Vero, entered carrying a datapad. His purple scales shimmered faintly under the lights. "Doctor, here are the new results," Vero said. "We completed a full scan. Every fracture shows accelerated recovery. It is not possible by our standards." Turla took the pad and studied the report. "His bones are rebuilding too quickly. It should take 7 days for this kind of healing, yet he has repaired 10% of the damage already." Vero nodded. "We checked the readings 3 times. The pattern is consistent. His body is generating new tissue at a rate 10 times faster than Tharn or Kaleri physiology. Humans are still a mystery. Their bodies are fragile, yet they survive the impossible. The more I study him, the less sense it makes." Vero leaned closer to the glass. "He looks peaceful now. I cannot believe this same being fought through a full swarm of drones." "He will not stay asleep much longer," Turla said. "His brain activity is rising. The regeneration fluid has done its work." As if responding to her words, small bubbles formed around the human's body. His eyes twitched beneath closed lids. The chamber's sensors beeped softly. His heart rate climbed to a steady rhythm. Turla pressed the control to drain the fluid. The clear liquid lowered slowly, leaving his body resting on the internal platform. Air filled the chamber. His eyes opened, blinking against the bright lights. For a moment, he seemed lost, unsure of where he was. Then recognition returned, and he focused on the figure standing in front of him. "Doctor," he said weakly. "You again." Turla smiled slightly. "Yes, Sergeant Rian. You are safe. You are on the Volaris Prime. Do you remember the battle?" He nodded slowly. "Some of it, not all." "How bad is it?" 17 fractures, several internal tears, and moderate spinal pressure trauma," she replied. "But your recovery is remarkable. Most of your major bones have already begun to mend. You should not be conscious this soon." Rand looked at his hands. The skin was covered in thin silver lines from the healing gel, but the fingers moved easily. "Guess I'm lucky." "Lucky's not the right word," Turla said. "Resilient is closer." He chuckled quietly, then winced as pain shot through his chest. "I'll take resilient. Sounds tougher." Turla motioned to Vero, who handed her a nutrient injector. "You need energy. The regeneration process drains your strength." She placed the injector on his arm. He flinched, but did not complain. The device released a faint hiss, and color returned to his face. "Better," he said. "Feels like I haven't eaten in days." "You have not?" Turla replied. You were unconscious for nearly 30 hours. Rian tried to sit up, but she pressed a hand on his shoulder. Do not move. Your body still needs rest. He sighed but obeyed. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the alien technology around him. The smooth walls glowed with soft light. Strange instruments floated above the tables, guided by silent drones. You people run a fancy hospital, he said. This is a research ship, Turla explained. Our medical bay is equipped for study and recovery, not for war casualties. You are the first patient we have treated from a full battlefield, and I hope I didn't break anything expensive, he said with a small grin. Vero blinked in confusion. Turla tilted her head. Break anything expensive? It means cause damage, Rian said. A human joke. Ah, humor. You have enough energy to joke. That is a good sign. He smiled again. Humor keeps us alive. Pain doesn't win if we can laugh. Her expression softened. She had read that humans used humor as a shield, but hearing it from him made the idea feel real. There was strength in his light tone, a refusal to surrender even when broken. Turla began another scan. The device floated around him, projecting faint lines of blue light across his body. The readings appeared on the console. His heart rate was strong. His blood cells showed rapid oxygen binding, and his bone marrow had already produced new growth. She could not hide her amazement. Sergeant Rian, your biology is unlike anything we have documented, she said. Even under severe trauma, your systems adapt. Your blood produces new platelets faster than our records predict. Humans adapt, he said simply. It's what we do. We push through. Barrow stepped forward, fascinated. Is it true that humans can survive without medical pods? That you use only basic supplies on your home world? Rian nodded. Sometimes, yes. We learn to treat wounds with simple tools. When you grow up in places with no help, you learn to fix yourself, or you don't make it. The young medic's eyes widened. That sounds terrifying. Sounds like life, Rian replied calmly. Turla finished the scan and saved the data. She turned to her assistant. Vero, bring the translator tablet. I want to record his responses. Vero fetched the tablet and handed it to her. She began the interview. Sergeant Rian, during your mission, how long were you exposed to battle before the evacuation? About 4 hours, he answered. My squad was supposed to hold the lower corridor until the civilians cleared the docks. We didn't expect the drones to adapt so fast. They learned our attack patterns. My armor gave out, but I stayed behind to keep the last wave away from the transport. Why stay alone? Turla asked. Your survival odds must have been near zero. Rian looked down for a moment. Someone had to cover the exit. I was closest to the gate. My team was already wounded. I told them to fall back. I guess I just didn't want anyone else to die because I hesitated. Turla's hand paused over the tablet. She had heard similar words from soldiers of other races, but none delivered them with such calm certainty. He spoke as if it were not heroism, but duty. Vero glanced at him in disbelief. You chose to face a machine army alone. Were you not afraid? Rian met his eyes. Of course I was afraid. Courage isn't the lack of fear. It's doing what's right even when fear tries to stop you. The young medic had no reply. Turla continued recording. The drones targeted your position directly. The logs show over 50 confirmed hits. Yet you remained active until the rescue shuttle arrived. How did you maintain consciousness? I wanted to make sure the others got clear, he said. If I passed out, it was over. So I didn't let myself. The body listens to the mind if you give it a reason. The body listens to the mind, Turla repeated quietly. That may be the key. Barrow leaned toward her. Doctor, could it be that human willpower triggers a biological response? Their mind forces the body to survive. It is possible, she said. Their nervous system might release chemicals that enhance endurance. We must study this further. Rian laughed softly. You make it sound like I'm some science project. Turla looked slightly embarrassed. Forgive me. I mean no disrespect. You have already taught us more about human resilience than any document could. I don't mind, he said. If it helps you understand humans better, study all you want. Just don't cut anything off. Vera looked horrified until Rian grinned. Turla sighed. Another joke, I assume? Yeah, he said with a smile. Keeps things light. After some time, Turla decided he needed rest. We will continue later. For now, you should sleep again. Rian shook his head. No sleep. I've slept enough. Your body disagrees, she replied. He looked thoughtful. Can I at least see the view outside? Turla hesitated, then nodded. She adjusted the chamber controls, raising the transparent shield to open the viewport on the far wall. The stars appeared, shining across the dark expanse. The ship drifted through a quiet sector of space far from battle. Rian stared at the stars for a long moment. It's strange, he said softly. We fight so hard on small worlds, but out here, everything feels calm. Like the universe doesn't care about our wars. Turla stood beside him. Perhaps the universe cares in its own way. It gave us the chance to survive and meet each other. That may be its gift. He looked at her with respect. That's a good way to see it, Doctor. They stood in silence for several minutes. The stars reflected on the glass, and for the first time since his arrival, the human looked truly at peace. When she finally spoke, her voice was gentle. Sergeant Rian, you have changed how I see your kind. Before today, I thought humans were reckless and emotional. Now I see that your strength lies in something deeper. He turned toward her. What do you see now? I see a species that refuses to stop. You break, you bleed, but you never surrender. It is both frightening and inspiring. Rian smiled faintly. That's humanity, Doctor. We fall down, but we always stand up again. Turla nodded slowly. Then I hope your kind never stands against mine. The galaxy would tremble. Rian laughed softly, then leaned back. Don't worry. We prefer peace. Fighting's just something we do when there's no choice left. Vero wrote those words into the report. The starship Valaris Prime floated in calm space, its engines humming softly after the recent battle. The danger had passed, but the crew still felt the weight of what they had witnessed. On the medical deck, Dr. Turla and her team were preparing for a special session. They were about to uncover the full story of what had happened on the mining colony below the battle that left one human soldier with 17 broken bones yet still alive. Turla stood before the glowing screen, reviewing the logs recovered from Rian's combat suit. The armor had recorded every sound, every movement, and every heartbeat during the fight. Most of the data was damaged, but enough remained to piece together the truth. Rian sat nearby on a recovery bed, dressed in a simple gray uniform. His left arm was still in a support brace, and his ribs ached with every deep breath, but his spirit was unshaken. Vero, the young medic, adjusted the lights while 2 technicians activated the holodisplay. Sergeant Rian, Turla said, we have recovered portions of your mission record. If you are comfortable, we would like to review them with you. It will help us understand what happened and how you endured such trauma. Rian nodded. Go ahead, Doctor. I remember most of it, but maybe seeing it will fill in the blanks. The room darkened as the holodisplay came to life. Blue light filled the air, forming a 3-dimensional image of the battlefield. The projection showed the mining colony a dusty, gray landscape dotted with half-built shelters and heavy equipment. The atmosphere was harsh, filled with smoke and sparks from falling debris. The sound of static filled the room. Then voices crackled through the speakers. This is Echo Team reporting. Civilians loaded, preparing last shuttle for launch. Turla watched as small human figures ran toward a transport ship, carrying injured miners. The scene shifted to show a group of soldiers in dark armor, taking positions at a narrow passage. Among them stood Rian, holding a plasma rifle, his armor marked with the symbol of the Earth Defense Corps. Was this your team? Turla asked. Yes, he said quietly. That's Lieutenant Mara and Corporal Dan. We were covering the southern gate. In the recording, Rian's voice came through. Keep the corridor clear. If the drones break through, we seal the entrance. The next moment showed flashes of light as enemy machines poured through the distant hills. The drones were insect-like, with glowing sensors and mechanical wings. They moved fast, swarming toward the humans. The The sounds of battle filled the air, energy bolts striking metal, explosions shaking the ground. Vero flinched as he watched. How many were there? Too many, Rian replied. We stopped counting after the first wave. The recording showed Rian firing steadily, his squad fighting beside him. The drones fell one after another, but more kept coming. The human soldiers moved with precision, covering each other, shouting commands through their helmets. Then the feed flickered. When it cleared again, only Rian remained standing. His armor was cracked, smoke rising from his shoulder. The corridor behind him was full of wreckage. His voice came through the radio. Team down. I'm holding position. Last shuttle is lifting. Turla felt her chest tighten. She knew what came next. You were alone, she said softly. Rian nodded. They were all gone. I had to make sure nothing followed the civilians. On the display, the drones advanced again. Rian kept firing, retreating step by step. One drone exploded near him, throwing him against the wall. His armor bent inward, ribs breaking from the impact. Yet he stood again, limping, and kept shooting. Vero could not look away. How could you stand with that much damage? Rian's voice in the recording answered that question before he could. Come on, you metal things. I'm still here. Turla turned to Rian, astonished. You were taunting them? He smiled faintly. If I stopped talking, I'd start thinking about the pain. Talking made it easier to focus. The recording showed the drones closing in again. One struck him from behind, fracturing his leg. He fell, rolled, and fired upward, destroying it. He tried to stand, but fell again. The camera shook as he crawled to cover. His breathing was harsh. The medical team watched in silence as Rian dragged himself behind a broken generator. Reloaded his weapon and kept firing. The battle continued for several more minutes until his ammunition ran dry. He reached for a fallen soldier's weapon and kept going. The display froze when his vitals spiked. The armor's sensors showed internal bleeding, multiple fractures, and oxygen loss. Yet his heartbeat remained strong. Turla stared at the data. Any other being would have lost consciousness. But you fought through every warning signal. Rian nodded slowly. If I stopped, the drones would have reached the escape shuttle. There were families on that ship. I had one job: hold the line. The recording resumed. The final minutes were brutal to watch, but Turla forced herself to keep studying. Rian's voice grew weaker, but he refused to stop fighting. When his rifle jammed, he used his last grenade to destroy the remaining drones near the gate. The explosion threw him across the corridor. The camera went dark for a moment, then returned, showing only static and faint breathing. That was when the rescue shuttle arrived. Vero exhaled slowly. You fought alone for almost 20 minutes after your team fell. That is beyond reason. Reason doesn't win battles, Rian said. Sometimes you just hold on because someone has to. Turla stopped the playback. The room stayed silent. The hologram of the burning colony faded away, replaced by the calm glow of the medical bay. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Turla asked, Sergeant Rian, what were you thinking in those final moments? When you were injured, alone, and surrounded? He leaned back, his eyes distant. I wasn't thinking about dying. I was thinking about the people on that ship. I imagined them getting away, finding safety. That was enough to keep me going. Pain didn't matter. Fear didn't matter. Only finishing the job. Vero looked down, deeply moved. We study life signs, chemical reactions, and endurance, but there is no formula for what you describe. Turla nodded. It is called willpower. I have read about it, but seeing it recorded like this gives it meaning. Rian gave a small smile. It's not special. Most humans would do the same. Doubt that, she said quietly. Even among your kind, you are exceptional. The data technician cleared his throat. Doctor, there is one more section of the log you may want to see. It recorded something unusual. Play it, she said. The display lit up again. This time, it showed Rian lying on the ground after the final blast. His voice was faint but clear. If anyone finds this, tell them the line held. Then, faintly, the feed caught a strange sound. It was not the voice of a human, but a transmission in alien code. The technicians enhanced the audio. A metallic voice spoke in a mechanical tone. Target neutralized. Resistance concluded. No survivors detected. Rion's hand twitched. Not yet, he whispered in the recording, and reached for his weapon again. The room fell silent. Turla stared at the image of the man still trying to fight, even after hearing his own death declared. When the playback ended, she turned to him. Why did you keep going when you believed you were the only one left? He looked thoughtful. Because I didn't fight for survival. I fought so others could live. That was the point. His answer echoed through the room. Every alien present felt something stir in their hearts. They had seen bravery before, but not like this. Not a bravery that ignored all logic. After a few moments, Turla spoke again. You have changed how I understand life itself, Sergeant. I thought survival was about strength, but you have shown it is about purpose. He smiled gently. Purpose is what keeps us human, Doctor. Without it, we're just breathing. She saved the recording and turned off the display. The blue light faded, leaving the soft glow of the medical bay once more. We will archive this footage, she said. Future generations will study it. Your actions will teach them the meaning of endurance. Rion leaned back, his eyes closing for a moment. If that helps someone, then it was worth it. Vero stepped forward. Doctor, permission to make a note in the medical record. Turla nodded. The young medic wrote on his pad. Observation. Human subject displayed endurance beyond biological explanation. Hypothesis, psychological drive exceeds physical limitation. Ian opened one eye and smiled. Sounds fancy. You could just write that humans are too stubborn to quit. Vero laughed softly. Yes, Sergeant. That might be more accurate. Turla turned off her console. You need rest now. You have done enough talking for one day. Rion nodded and lay back, finally allowing himself to relax. His breathing slowed, and within moments he was asleep. The medics quietly left the room, leaving only Turla and the hum of machines. She stood by the bed for a long time, watching the steady rhythm of his heartbeat on the monitor. She whispered to herself, how can something so fragile be so strong? When she finally left, she made one final entry in her personal log. Today I saw a being with broken bones stand, taller than any uninjured warrior. His courage was not born of power, but of heart. The truth of the battle is simple. Humanity endures not because they are unbreakable, but because they choose not to stop. The words glowed softly on her screen before she saved them. Outside the ship, the stars drifted by, endless and cold. Inside, one human's quiet breathing reminded everyone that warmth could still exist, even in the darkest void. The ship, Valeris Prime, moved quietly through deep space. Its engines hummed with a calm rhythm as it drifted toward the neutral station of Keller. The medical bay was peaceful now, far from the chaos of battle. Yet within its quiet walls, the greatest mystery of all, still rested Sergeant Rion. The human who had survived the impossible, Dr. Turla, entered the medbay early that cycle, her steps light but her mind busy. She had barely slept. The recordings of Rion's last mission replayed in her thoughts. His strength, his words, and his determination haunted her in a way that no medical puzzle ever had. Rio was already there, checking Rion's vitals. His bones are healing faster than expected, he reported. The regeneration gel is working better than predicted. Turla looked at the monitor. That may be because his body keeps producing more repair cells than normal. It is as if his system refuses to rest. Rion stirred as they spoke, slowly opening his eyes. Morning, doctors, he said in a calm voice. How's my body holding up? Vero smiled. Better than most would after what you went through. You might even be walking again in a few days. Rion tried to sit up, but Turla gently pushed him back. Do not rush. Your recovery may be fast, but you still need rest. Human or not, your body deserves time to heal. He smiled faintly. Rest isn't my strongest skill, Doctor. Turla gave a small sigh. I noticed. She moved to a nearby console and opened a holographic chart showing Rion's biological readings. Bright streams of color represented bone density, muscle regeneration, and nerve recovery. Each marker glowed stronger than the day before. Vera watched with wide eyes. I have never seen anything like this. Even our strongest soldiers need weeks to recover from less damage. But he is rebuilding himself almost as fast as our machines can repair him. It is not only his biology, Turla said. It is his will. His body responds to it. Rian listened quietly, then asked, You keep studying me? What do you hope to find? Turla looked thoughtful. Understanding. We study to learn how the universe works. But you, Sergeant, are something new. You survive beyond what nature intended. We want to know how and why. Rian nodded. Then maybe it's simple. Humans are built to adapt. We break, we hurt, but we keep going. You can't teach that. It comes from needing to protect something. Vero tilted his head. Protect? Even when it costs you pain? Especially then, Rian said. Pain reminds us that something still matters. The two alien medics shared a look. They were beginning to realize that human resilience came not from strength, but from meaning. Later that day, the ship docked at the Keller station. It was a vast structure orbiting a gas giant, filled with life from dozens of species. The Valeris Prime crew hoped to resupply and send reports to their command. Turla decided it was also time to introduce Rian to movement therapy in the station's recovery wing. She guided his wheelchair through the large observation hall. The view outside showed the swirling clouds of the planet below, painted in gold and blue light. Rian stared at it in silence. It's beautiful, he said. Turla nodded. Yes, it reminds me that even in destruction, the universe creates beauty. They entered the therapy chamber. Inside, soft blue lights surrounded a pool of regeneration fluid. The air smelled of clean ozone. Machines waited along the walls to monitor progress. Vero entered, carrying a set of support crutches made from alloy. Are you ready, Sergeant? He asked with a grin. Rian took the crutches and smiled. Let's find out. He stood slowly, balancing his weight. Pain shot through his legs, but he didn't flinch. He took one step, then another. Turla watched closely, her hands ready to assist. But he waved her off. I've got this, firmly. Vero recorded the movement data while Turla watched the heart monitor. Stable pulse. No dangerous strain. After several steps, Rian stopped, breathing heavily. Sweat covered his forehead, but his expression stayed calm. Turla spoke softly. You should rest before you fall. He chuckled. Falling's part of learning to stand again. Vero looked amazed. Do all humans think like that? Most of us try too, Rian said. It's how we've survived our own history. They helped him back to the seat. Turla looked at the data again. The muscle activity was higher than before. His recovery was accelerating. Your progress will inspire our entire department, she said. Rian smiled. If it helps someone else, I'm glad. But I'm more interested in walking out of here on my own 2 feet. Later that cycle, Turla visited him again with a tray of nutrition packs. You have many admirers now, she said with a gentle tone. Word has spread across the station about the human who survived 17 fractures. Rian looked amused. Guess news travels fast out here. Faster than light, she replied. They call you the Unbroken. He laughed softly. I like that better than the Injured Man. Her expression softened. It is rare to meet someone who changes the way others think. You have made us question what limits really mean. Rian leaned back. Limits exist, so we can learn how far to push them. Humans don't always win, but we never stop trying. Turla nodded slowly. That is what makes your kind unique. She hesitated, then said, May I ask you something personal? When you fight, what do you feel? Fear? Anger? He thought for a moment. I feel responsibility. I don't fight for myself. I fight so others can make it home. Her eyes reflected quiet respect. You fight for others even when it may end your life. That is not logical, but it is noble. It's what makes us human, he said softly. The next few days passed with steady progress. Rian began walking with less support. The alien medical staff watched in awe as his bones strengthened far beyond expectation. The healing chamber's system's often overloaded, trying to match his body's natural rhythm. Vero joked one day. We should study your DNA. Maybe you are part machine. Rian laughed. If I were, I'd be a very tired machine. Each day, more aliens came to see him. Engineers, scientists, and even children visited the medical wing to meet the human who defied death. Rian greeted each one with patience, answering their questions, sharing small stories of Earth, and teaching them the meaning of courage without ever trying to sound like a hero. One small alien child asked him, "Were you scared when you were hurt?" He smiled warmly. Yes, very scared. But being brave doesn't mean not feeling fear. It means doing what's right even when you are afraid. The child smiled and left with shining eyes. Turla watched from the doorway, her chest filled with quiet pride. She realized that Rian was healing not only his own body, but also the minds of those around him. He had become a living example of endurance and kindness. One night, as the stars glowed beyond the viewport, Turla joined Rian for a quiet talk. You know, she said, I have studied many species. Some are stronger, some live longer, some heal faster. But none inspire others like your kind does. Rian looked thoughtful. Maybe it's because we've had to fight our way through our own mistakes. Every step we take teaches us something. Turla smiled. Perhaps that is why the galaxy needs you, he chuckled. I'm not sure the galaxy needs a broken soldier, but it needs what you represent, she said gently. Hope he didn't answer right away. He looked out at the stars, thinking of his lost squad and the people he had saved. Hope kept me alive. If that's something I can share, then I'll keep doing it. The door opened and Vero entered, holding a message pad. Dr. Turla Command just sent a request. They want to debrief Sergeant Rian. They say the council wants to meet him in person. Turla raised her brow. The Galactic Council? Yes, Vero said. They are impressed by his actions. They believe his experience could help improve interspecies cooperation. Rian looked surprised. Me? I'm just a soldier. Turla smiled. Perhaps you are more than that now. You are living proof of what courage looks like. Rian sighed, half amused and half uncertain. I guess I don't have much choice, Vero grinned. You always have a choice. That's what makes you human, right? Rian laughed softly. You're learning fast. The next morning, he stood again without support. His movements were strong, balanced, and sure. The medics gathered around, clapping quietly. Even Turla smiled widely. You are cleared for duty, she said proudly. But please promise me something. What's that? He asked. Try not to break any more bones. He chuckled. I'll do my best, Doctor. She extended her hand, a gesture learned from humans. Then good luck, Sergeant Rian. He shook it firmly. Thank you for everything. You helped me heal in more ways than one. As he walked down the corridor toward the docking bay, aliens from different worlds watched him pass. Some bowed their heads, others saluted. Rian didn't see himself as a hero, but to them, he'd become something greater, a symbol of endurance and hope. Turla watched from the medbay window as the human boarded a shuttle. She whispered quietly, May the stars guide you. Unbroken. The shuttle's engines roared to life, lifting away from the station and disappearing into the dark sea of stars, and somewhere deep inside the ship, Valoris Prime. The story of one human soldier continued to spread a story that would soon reach every world, reminding them that even the smallest light could outshine the darkest void. The shuttle carrying Sergeant Rian drifted silently through the stars. Heading toward the central world of the Galactic Council, it was his first journey outside the recovery ship Valoris Prime since the battle. His body was healed, his bones strong again, but his heart still carried the memories of those who had fallen beside him. He stood by the window, looking out at the endless lights of space. Each star reminded him of something familiar: hope, survival, and the unbreakable will to keep moving forward. The pilot, a quiet alien named Terran, turned his head slightly. We will arrive in 20 minutes, Sergeant. The council is expecting you, Rian nodded. Thank you, Terran. I'm still not sure why they want to see me. They see what you represent, Terran said. Your story has reached every world. The footage from your armor has become a lesson in courage. Even our young learn from it now. Ryan smiled faintly. I never thought I'd be someone's lesson. When the shuttle descended, the world of the council came into view. It was a giant city floating above clouds filled with silver towers and bright lights. The landing pads shimmered like mirrors. As Rian stepped out, the air was warm, clean, and full of soft music that echoed across the open sky. Waiting for him at the platform were Dr. Turla and Vero. Both looked proud and excited. Welcome back, Sergeant Turla said warmly. You made it here faster than expected. Rian shook her hand. You again, Doctor. I thought you'd be too busy with your research. Your story became part of our research, she replied. We could not miss the moment when you stand before the council. Vero grinned. And we wanted to make sure you don't break anything before the meeting. Rian laughed. I'll try not to. They entered the great hall of the Galactic Council. The chamber was vast, filled with light and sound. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in high seats, their eyes glowing with curiosity. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by shimmering energy. An elder alien, tall and dignified, spoke in a calm tone. Sergeant Rian of Earth, you have been summoned not as a soldier, but as a symbol. You faced death and did not surrender. The Council wishes to understand what gives your kind such strength. Rian stepped forward. His voice was steady and humble. I'm honored to be here. But I didn't survive because I'm special. I survived because others needed me to. Every human carries that same drive. We protect, we endure, we help each other. That's what makes us strong, the elder nodded. We have studied your body. We understand your biology. But we wish to understand your spirit. Tell us what it means to be human. Rian took a deep breath. Being human means choosing to stand when everything tries to push you down. It means caring for others even when it hurts. We may be fragile compared to many of you, but we never stop trying. And sometimes, trying is enough to change everything. The hall stayed silent for a moment. Then soft murmurs filled the air as the council members spoke among themselves. A representative from the Aver species said, Our kind believes survival belongs to the strong. But this human teaches that survival belongs to the willing. Another from the Trell Federation said, He turned pain into purpose. Perhaps we must learn to do the same. The elder raised a hand. Your words will be remembered, Sergeant Rian. But there is one more matter. The colony where you fought has become a memorial site. The council requests that you attend its dedication. Rian bowed his head. Of course, I'd be honored. After the meeting, Turla and Vero joined him outside on the balcony overlooking the glowing city. You spoke well, Turla said. They listened to you not as a soldier, but as a teacher. Rian looked at the horizon. I only said what I believe. I'm glad they heard it, Vero smiled. Do you realize what you've done? For the first time, the council is discussing shared medical and rescue protocols between species. You might have started something far bigger than you think, Rian chuckled. If that means fewer lives lost, then it's worth it. That evening, the three boarded a transport bound for the colony world. The journey took several days. During that time, Rian shared stories of Earth, of its oceans, mountains, and storms. The aliens listened with fascination, amazed that such a harsh world produced beings so resilient. When they finally arrived, the colony was peaceful again. New buildings rose from the ruins, and workers of many species moved side by side. At the center of the site stood a large monument made of metal and stone. At its base was a simple plaque that read, For those who held the line. For the unbroken. Rian stood before it quietly. His eyes reflected both pride and sorrow. Turla and Vero stayed beside him, giving him space. A young miner approached a human woman who had survived the evacuation that day. Sergeant Rian, she said softly, my family was on the last shuttle. You saved us. I never got to thank you. Rian smiled kindly. You don't need to thank me. Just live well. That's all the thanks I need. She nodded, her eyes wet with emotion. We'll never forget what you did. After she left, Turla turned to him. You could have asked for anything. Power, wealth, recognition. Yet you ask for nothing, Rian shrugged lightly. Because none of that matters. What matters is that they get to live. Vero looked up at the monument. You taught us that heroism isn't about strength. It's about choosing to stand even when you have every reason not to. The ceremony began. Representatives from every allied world gathered to honor the fallen. The wind carried a deep, steady hum of sound made by hundreds of voices joining together in silence. Rian placed his hand on the cold stone of the monument. This isn't about me, he said quietly. It's about everyone who refused to give up. When the ceremony ended, the council's elder approached him. The galaxy has changed because of you, human. Your endurance has reminded us of what it means to fight not for victory, but for life itself. Rian bowed respectfully. I just did what anyone should do, the elder smiled. Perhaps, but few ever do. That night, Rian sat outside near the edge of the colony. The stars were bright again, the air calm. Turla joined him, sitting quietly for a while before speaking. I will miss you when you return to Earth, she said. He looked at her and smiled. I'll miss this place too. I never expected to find friends among the stars. She smiled back. You gave us more than friendship. You gave us faith in something greater. Vero arrived with 3 metal cups filled with warm energy drink. To the unbroken, he said with a grin. Rian raised his cup. To everyone who keeps standing. They drank in silence, the stars reflecting in their eyes. As time passed, Rian's story continued to spread. Across the galaxy, training centers began teaching the Unbroken Protocol, system inspired by human endurance and teamwork. Medical academies studied his recovery process, calling it the Rian response. Even young cadets on distant worlds began repeating a simple phrase before every mission: hold the line. Years later, when new explorers from Earth arrived, they found that the words unbroken and human had become symbols of courage among many civilizations. Statues of Rian stood in several colonies, always depicted standing tall, not as a warrior, but as a protector. Dr. Turla continued her research, publishing a study titled The Biology of Willpower. In her introduction, she wrote, The human body bends, but the human spirit does not. To heal is to believe that tomorrow still matters. Vero became the lead medic of a new peacekeeping fleet. He often told young recruits, I once met a man who fought with broken bones and still smiled. If he could do that, we can face anything. As for Rian, he returned to Earth for a time, living quietly near the sea. He walked without pain, trained new soldiers, and shared what he had learned. But sometimes, on clear nights, he would look up at the stars and think of his friends on the Valeris Prime. One evening, as the sun set and the waves turned gold, a message arrived from Turla. It read simply, The galaxy remembers. Thank you, Unbroken. He smiled, watching the horizon. The wind was cool, and the world felt peaceful. He whispered softly, As long as someone keeps standing, hope will never die. The waves crashed gently against the shore. In the fading light, the man who once entered an alien medbay with 17 broken bones stood tall again, whole, calm and unbroken, and across the stars, countless beings remembered his story. Not as a legend of war, but as a story of courage that united worlds and proved that even the smallest light of humanity could outshine the darkness of an entire galaxy.